Hey, Brian, it looks like we got another episode.
Hey, John, what's happening?
We need a theme song or something.
We absolutely do. Next time, let's get a theme song going.
Yeah, I think that's something we could wrestle. What do you think?
I think we could wrestle that down into submission.
Yeah, exactly. Because we can, I don't know, I couldn't think of another wrestling euphemism, but today, this is episode 3 of the Casual Movie Club, so welcome.
Welcome to the Casual Movie Club.
Welcome. I gotta say, when we picked the movie that we did here this time around, I was not excited.
To be honest, I wasn't excited either. I'm very familiar with this director. I love his first few films. Darren Aronofsky, his first few films being Pi, probably his most well-known Requiem for a Dream. One of his most recent films, very polarizing film, Mother, starring Jennifer Lawrence and is that Javier Bardem?
I'm not sure, but I've heard that was a very good movie.
I saw it and it was visually good. It was visually a really well done movie. I think it's a really well done movie all around.
Yeah.
Just the concept of it. Well, and we're not here to talk about Mother. We're here to talk about Darren Aronofsky's critically acclaimed, though I was surprised to hear that it didn't win any awards, the film The Wrestler.
Right, absolutely, and that was from 2008. Now, when I was looking this up on IMDb, it looks like it is actually nominated for 2 Oscars. Both leading actors, Mickey Roarke playing the wrestler Randy the Ram Robinson, is that what it was?
Yeah.
He was nominated, and then Marisa Tomei for playing Cassidy or Pam or whatever we want to call her as the sort of supporting actress. She was nominated as well. Phenomenal performances, really. And like I was saying before, I wasn't really excited about this movie because it's a drama, and like dramas I could take or leave it a drama. I'm not a super big drama fan, but it was kind of like one of those just almost a biopic or just about this wrestler's life. And I was like, okay, I had never heard of the movie until we picked it on this podcast, and I nothing about it drew me in, but you were talking about how good the director was and that you were familiar with his work, so that kind of piqued my interest a little bit. But all in all, it was like, okay, well, this is just going to be some whatever movie. But I have to say, after watching it, I was really pulled in.
Yeah.
It really pulled me in, and I got to say I really enjoyed it.
And as somebody who grew up watching wrestling, this was really impactful, especially being familiar with some of the post-career lives of some of the wrestlers. One famous example is Jake the Snake Roberts. He is famously had a really tough time struggling with life outside the ring. He had some family problems. He had addiction problems. Eventually, he's turned his life back around. But this film kind of mirrors a lot of the stories that you hear about some of the post lives of professional wrestlers after they've kind of left the spotlight. And this was very, very moving film.
Yeah, absolutely. And a couple of times I know during the movie I was saying, I think I know how this is going to end, or I think I know what's going to happen here, and I was wrong.
I was wrong also.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. So, okay. So let's jump right in. So, I was blown away at just the caliber of the performances, and I know we're going to get into our ratings here in a couple of minutes, but I cannot think of a better way for this story to be told.
I agree. And when it first started, it was almost like a montage told through newspaper clippings and flyers and things like that. And it was the height of his career. You could really compare him to one of the big name 80s wrestlers, Hulk Hogan, Ultimate Warrior, the Iron Sheik. They had fame and fortune and all kinds of popularity, and then 20 years later, now he's outside of. His career is on the decline, but he's still trying to
keep it alive.
Still trying to keep it alive. Still wrestling local matches. Still trying to, I guess, chase that feeling.
Yeah, and I mean, we should probably read the description here. A faded professional wrestler must retire, but finds his quest for a new life outside the ring a dispiriting struggle. Yeah,
and it was shocking. Some of the things that he had to go through were just really painful to watch. But executed in a very executed very well.
I was going to say a beautifully artistic way.
Yeah, his relationships, you see how he kind of forms relationships and kind of breaks them down, or fucks them up.
Right.
Really. One of the things that I noticed was the juxtaposition of his the camaraderie he has with the other wrestlers.
Right.
Everyone's bro. He's very friendly with everybody.
Yeah.
Everybody's buying drinks for each other after the match.
Yeah, and it amazed me to see, because I did not grow up watching wrestling, so I know very little about it, and I was just amazed to see how well they all get along. And you were telling me how wrestling is staged and everything, so it totally makes sense that it's just this sort of brotherhood of entertainers.
Yeah.
And I kind of made the analogy to pornography.
Yeah, which was an interesting analogy, especially considering his relationship with Marisa Tomei, the character Pam. Yeah, her stage name being Cassidy. We find out that the Ram's real name is Robin Remzinski.
Yeah.
And he goes by Randy Robinson.
Randy the Ram Robinson,
which is very similar to Cassidy. Her name is Pam, but she has a life out off of stage, and her name is Pam, and she has a whole other life. And the parallels between the two were really striking.
Yeah.
When Randy was having trouble kind of adjusting to his life off of the stage or out of the ring.
Yeah.
And you could see Cassidy. There was a section near the end where she was having trouble with customers, with the clientele giving her a hard time for being a little older, and you could see her kind of making the rounds. Hey, do you want a private dance? No, I'm good. You want a private dance? No, I'm good. So she had her own struggles, and I liked that parallel that they struck.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this movie seemed to be so much more than just a story about a wrestler.
Yeah.
And that's what would you attribute that to? I mean, the story writing, the direction. I mean, whatever caused that, I'm grateful for that feeling or that aspect of it, just because it made it so much more enjoyable to watch for someone who really had, I've had no interest in wrestling all my life, and I'm not gonna go start watching WWE or whatever, but I really enjoyed this movie and how Mickey Roarke portrayed the lead character and everything. Like I really enjoyed how it was all done, but I also really enjoyed the storytelling and just how it was all done, because it took me a while. We'll get into our numbers here, but it took me a while to be okay with 70% of the movie being shot from behind Mickey Roarke. Like that was, I think even the first scene where we see him, we don't see his face until 5-6 minutes into the movie.
Yeah, it's about that.
And I found that really odd that most of it was shooting him from behind, and there was a lot of shooting him from behind, and it took a while to get into that. But then once you saw what they were going for, and you can kind of it's almost like you're seeing life following him around, or almost seeing things through his eyes. And I thought that was just a nice touch to how they did things. But you want to get into the numbers?
Yeah, let's get into the numbers in just a minute here. I wanted to cover just a couple more things.
Sure.
The perspective, we talked about this as we were watching this. I really enjoyed the behind the behind the back perspective, because it wasn't really a first person. It was giving you his perspective as he was walking through, as he was going through life.
And it's almost like you were doing it with him.
Yeah, exactly.
You were like walking with him. You were walking beside him, behind him. I totally see that.
A couple other things I wanted to call out is we've talked about his relationship with the stripper Cassidy, but also his relationship with his job, his quote unquote day job.
Yeah,
I thought it was very staged very similar. He treated it like wrestling. He treated it like going to work in the ring. And they did some interesting choices with that behind the back perspective.
Yeah.
As he was, he just retired and he wanted to get regular day work. And his asshole boss said, the only thing I got for you is the deli counter. So his first day, he gets the wrong name for his name tag. But he has to suit up kind of similarly to the wrestling role.
Yeah.
And then he kind of walk through the hallways behind at the back of the store, and it was very similar to his walk to the wrestling ring. And I really liked how they did that.
Sound in the sound effects in the background were the crowds cheering and everything, and he even stood right before he walked out onto the sales floor. Mm-hmm. Like standing there kind of pumping himself up, getting ready to go. And then as soon as he walks through the doorway, everything stops.
Everything stops, yeah. And it's not as glamorous as his job in the ring.
Yeah.
The last couple things I wanted to call out is the relationship with his daughter. Evan Rachel Wood is the actress. It's Stephanie. Yeah. His daughter, Stephanie.
Yeah.
I really liked how he was trying to get. He had a heart attack after a really grueling wrestling match.
Yeah.
And I like I mentioned before, I grew up watching wrestling. I watched WCW, I watched WWF, I watched WWF turn into WWE, Raw's War, all that kind of thing. But I grew up on the East Coast, and there was a wrestling organization called ECW, Extreme Championship Wrestling, and the match that the Ram went through was very similar to those matches where they took tacks, they had barbed wire wrapped around crutches, they had ladders, tables. Crazy. Yeah, that was very, very similar to those matches. And I really loved the way that this director, they first showed the aftermath where they both got out of the ring, and they sat down and they were getting cleaned up, getting the tacks pulled out of them, get the staples pulled out of them. But then they would cut to how these injuries happened. There was a really bad slice in the Ram's midsection, and as he was getting it glued up, they cut to how that injury happened in the ring, and that was really, really brutal. Yeah, and I think it just really. It really put an exclamation point on just how hard this was on his body. Yeah. And then after all that, he has his heart attack, and that kind of shakes him. Well, he goes to the strip club to talk to Cassidy, and he's scared, and she recommends that he goes and finds his daughter again. He goes to find his daughter, and he slowly, with Cassidy's help, he slowly kind of gets in good with her. He comes and sees Stephanie, his daughter, a couple times, eventually gets gifts for her, and then after a couple of things happen that are kind of put him in a bad headspace, he messes up the relationship. He kind of sleeps through it. So it's really, to me, it was really interesting seeing his relationships with his coworkers in the ring, relationships with the coworkers at the supermarket, Cassidy and his daughter, and how he kind of treats those people and the different ways that he does that.
And how he had to cope with everything having a beginning, a height, and then a downfall.
Yes.
So I highly recommend the movie.
Yeah, I do too. All that rambling to say, I really liked the movie.
Yeah. So let's do the numbers.
Okay.
So why don't you start us off with acting? quality. And just a quick rundown for those new to the podcast, welcome. Head over to our website, casualmovieclub.com, and off the leaderboard page, you're going to see where we rank all of our movies on acting, how well the actors did, the quality of the dialogue that was written, so the script, the presentation, kind of a technical approach, editing and visual effects, music and sound, the soundtrack as a whole, uniqueness, has this movie been done before, and the sleep factor. How likely are you to fall asleep? Are you going to want to reach for your phone, or are you going to get drawn into the movie? So, acting, what do you think, Brian?
Acting,
on a scale of 1 to 5.
1 to 5, it's really tough because I liked pretty much all the performances in it. However, I would rate this at a 4 out of 5.
4 out of 5?
4 out of 5.
Okay, because we can do partial also.
Yeah, and I considered 4.5, but as a whole, I think I'm gonna stick with 4.
Okay, I'm going with a 4.25. I want to go a little higher because I just think casting wise, everything was on point.
Casting was perfect.
Casting really was awesome.
I can't think of anybody else playing any of these different roles.
Right, exactly.
Fun fact, in the IMDb trivia section, I found that the studio wanted to hire Nicolas Cage for the Randy the Ram part.
You're kidding me.
I'm not kidding you.
That would have made this movie absolutely terrible, but at the same time, hilarious.
Hilarious and amazing. And I want to see that film. Everything else the same, but just Nick Cage instead of Mickey Roarke.
That could be really interesting. All right, the script. So what did you think of the writing? How well was the dialogue?
Dialogue was believable. There was a lot of sighs, a lot of mumbling, and it felt real to me. There were a few conversations where I couldn't really get behind. There was a bar scene in particular where where the Ram and Cassidy were having a moment, and that kind of didn't ring very true for me.
Okay.
So if we're doing dialogue, script, that kind of thing, I would put this at a 3.5.
Okay. Yeah, I can get behind that. But one thing I was going to say about the acting also, sometimes when a movie's been cast really badly, you can, it kind of just, you're not sucked into it nearly as much. And I literally felt like I was watching an actual wrestler from the 80s going through all this. I didn't, I'm not super familiar with Mickey Rourke's work, but I thought I was watching an actual wrestler from the 80s.
Yeah.
So, like, to me, that I feel like I almost want to give the acting a higher score, but I'm going to stick with the 4.25. Script quality, I'm going to give it a 3.5 as well. So that makes the averaging part easy. All right. So, okay. So the presentation. So I'm going to start with this one. So presentation in terms of the. Excuse me.
Bless you.
Thank you. The editing and visual effects. Really, not much visual effects here, except for the kind of little bit of bloodiness with the fighting in the rings and that type of thing. I'm going to give this a 3.75. I think it was solid, but nothing that blew me away. Nothing that nothing that make me really go nuts. But I think it was solid.
Yeah, I'm going the other way with this. There were a few stunts where you could tell that there was a little bit of visual effects added in, especially when the Ram was jumping off the top rope, when he was doing the Hurricane Ranas, when he was kind of throwing people with his legs, that kind of stuff. But I thought it all kind of fit the style of the film.
It was
itself.
tasteful.
Yeah. The style felt consistent, especially some of the shots with the Ram standing on the top ropes. There was really great cinematography when when the Ram and his daughter were walking around Atlantic City.
There were some beautiful shots there.
Beautiful, well done shots.
Yeah.
So I want to put this at a 4.5.
Wow. Okay. Really high up there. Just doing the math really quick. And me so I don't have to do it later. Okay, cool. All right, music and sound. I'm giving this a 4.5.
Wow.
Because the soundtrack was it wasn't a lot of music, not a lot of background music, but there was a whole bunch of 80s metal songs.
Yeah.
80s and 90s metal. So like, a lot of classic rock, a lot of AC/DC, hair metal. Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Hair metal.
Rat.
Yeah, the Rat is who I was trying to think of. I think I caught a Def Leppard song in there. And then I loved how they ended it with Bruce Springsteen's The Wrestler.
Yes.
That was really cool. So like music and sound hit it out of the park for me.
Guns N' Roses also was the Rams entrance music for the last match.
Sweet Child of Mine.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you think for music and sound?
Well, you're talking about the songs, the soundtrack, the Rat, the Guns N' Roses, the AC/DC, and I thought that all fit very well. I was more focused on not the incidental music, but just the score.
Sure.
And the score was well placed when they were trying to build tension. I thought it was really well done there. I personally wasn't that impressed with it though.
Okay.
I share your sentiments. I love the 80s hair metal.
I just think it totally fit.
Yeah. Oh, it fit. The style, it all fit, but it just didn't impress me.
Okay.
It didn't impress me much.
That's
so
cool.
I'm going to give this a 3.5.
Okay. And the other thing I was going to say, interestingly enough, sort of musically, if you notice with the storyline, we looked at how wrestling was all he knew, but 80s metal was all he listened to when he drove around in his van. So, all right. So uniqueness. I personally don't know of any other movie that is like this. I mean, but I could be completely wrong about that. There's millions of movies out there.
Well,
so,
yeah. Well, I don't. There are the only movies I would put like this. The ones that I'm familiar with anyway are wrestling documentaries.
Yeah. Which is not the same as, would you call this a biopic? I mean, because it's not.
No,
it's not a true story.
It's not a true story, but like we were talking about earlier, it does parallel a lot of the trajectory of real people, real wrestlers.
Yeah. So uniqueness. What are you going to give it for uniqueness?
Well, I'd give it a 4.
Okay. Yeah, I'm going to go with that too.
Yeah.
Give it a 4.
Feels like a 4.
It's got that 4 vibe.
It's really good, man.
It really is. And then sleep factor. So, and I think just to clarify, the higher the number, the more likely you're likely to fall asleep, or the lower the number.
Lower.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the higher the number, the better.
Yeah.
Okay. Good. Because that's what I was thinking. So what do you want to give it for sleep factor?
If this movie were a 1, I'd be on my phone most of the time.
Right.
So therefore, I would give it a 4.5.
4.5? I'm going with 4.25. Mainly to be different. But and the only reason I'm saying that is because I don't share your same sort of heritage with growing up watching wrestling and such. So I wasn't drawn into the wrestling aspect of it, but I was certainly drawn into, other elements of it and such. So
right.
That gives our final standings here. I'm just doing all the math right now. Stand by. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. All right. So that gives us our final numbers here. Acting of 4.125, script of 3.5, presentation of 4.125, music and sound at 4, uniqueness at 4, and sleep factor at 4.375. which basically gives us a final score of 4.02, putting it at the current number 1 spot above Dennis the Menace, which I think it belongs there.
Oh, yeah, it belongs there.
And for looking at our leaderboard, you can go to casualmovieclub.com, click on leaderboard, and also it probably is worth mentioning that we are now on pretty much every podcast service.
Yeah.
So we are on iTunes, Google Play, TuneIn, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. That is 7 different places where you could listen to the two of us ramble on about movies.
Yep. You could also find us on Instagram at Casual Movie Club. You can follow us on Twitter, also at Casual Movie Club.
Beautiful.
And if you want to give us a call and leave us a voicemail, we can be reached at 402-882-2742.
Awesome. You can even shoot us an email, casualmovieclub@hotmail.com. That being said, I think we need to pick our next flick.
Okay. So you're going to do the random number generator?
Yep. So I'll head over to Google, and then I'm going to put in a random number generator. We're going to switch it up a little bit. We, instead of doing the whole random number generator, then a year, then random number generator, and then counting the numbers in, we're going to use IMDb's top 250 movies of all time.
Yeah, they've got a list built in already, and these movies are top-rated movies.
Right. So we're going to do this for a while, and then we'll change it up again because, hey, we're just keeping it casual.
Let's keep it casual.
I'm doing a random number between 1 and 250, and I've got 48. So what is 48 on that IMDb list?
Scrolling. That comes out to 1994's The Lion King.
The animated Disney movie.
Yeah.
Hey, that's cool.
IMDb has this at an 8.5 out of 10. That's out of 780,000 reviews.
Wow.
Metacritic score is 83 out of 100.
What about Rotten Tomatoes?
Rotten Tomatoes
Does it say?
Doesn't say.
That's cool. But The Lion King is a great movie. I haven't watched that in years.
It's been a long time since I've seen it.
That's okay. I'm excited. I'm looking forward to that. So cool. So next episode, The Lion King, the animated special, with the voices of
John and Brian.
Right, but I'm talking about yes, because we did voices in The Lion King.
Oh no, they're going to be hearing our voice.
Of course, but Nathan Lane was in it. James Earl Jones was in it. Who was the mother? Wasn't it like Angela Bassett or something? I thought it was. I'm trying to think of who the Simba's mother was.
Simba's mother wasn't Nala. No, Nala was
Nala was the girlfriend, or the young. Young lioness.
Young lioness. I don't remember.
I know. What's his face from Home Improvement was Simba. Jonathan Taylor Thomas was Simba.
Yeah.
Nathan Lane is in it.
Matthew Broderick.
Ernie Sabella was Pumbaa, I think. So it's a Disney movie.
It's a Disney movie.
Excited.
Yeah.
I'm excited.
It's going to be great.
Yeah, that's right. So cool. So next episode, Lion King, and until then, look for us on Twitter at Casual Movie Club, Instagram at Casual Movie Club, website at casualmovieclub.com, and look for us on Stitcher, TuneIn, Google Play, all those things. iHeartRadio. We're on iHeartRadio. Holy moly.
Yeah, man.
But anyway, we don't have any music to start the show, and we don't have any music to end the show yet. So we're just going to end it.
Yep. See you next time.
Bye.